We're on the internet again. Hey guys, you want to see a choosing beggar conversation? Yo dude, quick question. Are you still selling those Joy-Cons? Hey man, yeah, I still have 4 sets. Need some? I do. I left mine on the bed and my dog got to them and chewed them up. Was hoping I could get a pair from you. Dang, that sucks, and definitely. I have 3 sets of neon red and blue and 1 set of gray, all brand new. Since you're a friend, I can sell a pair for $55. Sound good? Wait, you're going to charge me? Come on dude, we're friends, just give me a pair. I mean, yeah. I bought them to sell, so of course I'm going to charge you. Wow, some friend, am I right? Trying to make a buck off me? Really? That's how it's gonna be? Yeah, it is. What kind of friend just charges another? Just do me a favor? Okay, first, I love where this is going. Second, I'm actually giving you a great deal because the lowest you'll find them in store for is $70 plus tax. Fine, since you want to be petty, I'll give you $10, but nothing more. I normally sell them for $65, but because you're a friend and because I wouldn't have to ship them to you, I knocked off $10. $10? Are you stupid? Tell you what, I have a better deal. $65 for each individual Joy-Con. Final offer. What? Dude, duck you. No, I'm good. Don't swing that way. Have a good day. F-word. I'll be sure to tell everyone else about this. You do that. I'm done here. A-hole. You know, it's very common for choosing beggars to always assume that their friends are obligated to give them free stuff, especially if they're some kind of artist or professional at something. But what about this? Hear me out here. What if it was possible to actually do a favor in the other direction? Like, what if they normally charge $65, but you're like, well, since you're a friend, I'll give you $75. Like, can you imagine actually doing something nice to a friend? Like, that'd be crazy. Alright, let's move on to a regular story. The guy tried to F me over with apartment damages fees. Backfired on him. So I'm a college student, and I desperately needed to find a sublease for this past spring and summer. So I ended up finding one at a pretty nice apartment complex in my city. The guy, we'll call him Bob, seemed cool. We had a mutual friend. Everything went great. However, Bob wants to do the sublease under the table, without the office getting involved. Okay, no worries, I've done this before. It's a 4x4 with 3 other male roommates. This is important for later. I have a 2-year hound mix. She's a great dog, but she gets terrible anxiety during thunderstorms. One day I'm at work, and we have probably the biggest thunderstorm we've had this year. She flips out and tears up the edges of the carpet to my room. My dad has a guy who came and did an estimate for the damages. Told me it would cost between $200 and $400 to recarpet the room. Cool, no problem. I can afford that. Bob sees the damages and I tell him I'll cover all the damages caused by her. Anyways, I move out in July. A month passes, I'm on vacation with my family, and this dude, Bob, decides to call my dad and mom repeatedly. Then his mom calls them. I have no idea how they even got my parents' numbers. They tell my parents that the apartment complex is charging them $4,000 to carpet a 10x10 room, and that I have until the end of September to pay it or they will take me to court. My dad is pissed because he knows the damages shouldn't cost that much. He contacts the leasing office and asks them for a breakdown of the damages. I don't know, but he managed to get them to tell him. The carpet damage in my room only cost $273. All the other charges were for damages the original tenant and his roommates did. So we contact Bob, and he is saying that the other 3 roommates were supporting his claim that my dog had caused all the damages in the house. Firstly, can someone please explain to me how it's the dog's fault that they caused a bottle of wine to explode on the ceiling of the kitchen? Or how she managed to destroy the dishwasher, or one of the guy's bathtubs? My mom calls her lawyer. My parents, the lawyer, and me have a little powwow. I never signed any document making me an official resident of the apartment. Therefore, I wasn't liable for any damages whatsoever. However, because I'm not an a-hole, I was still willing to pay for the carpet damage. We contact Bob, and he refuses the offer of payment. His mom says that she wants me to pay for everything. But no, I'm not going to. Because I'm petty though, I contacted the leasing office. I gave them all the documentation, the agreement for me to live there, payment history to him, all of it, of me living there. And now, the office is not only charging Bob and the other roommates the $4,000, they are suing for a breach of contract because he had an illegal tenant. Should have just taken the $273, dude. Aw, and look who decided to join us tonight. Yeah, man, that could be a rough situation. I tend to not room with too many people. I just share the house with one roommate because he owns the house. But we get along well enough and things tend to work out pretty well. Want me to create the employee schedule when I know I'm getting fired? You got it. So this was about 20 years ago. I was working as an hourly manager at a popular American fast food place. Franchise, not corporate. I had been there several years and had accrued some vacation time. I requested a week off, months in advance, to go on a hunting trip a few states away with my dad. The vacation time was approved by the general manager of the store, and I booked the trip, non-refundable. A week before I was due to go on vacation, the head of the office decided to replace my general manager with one from a different store they owned. The new general manager decided he had to assert his dominance by rejecting my vacation time, and stating that he didn't have enough managers available to cover the shifts. I argued that the trip was already booked, but he wasn't hearing any of it. I liked my job and didn't want to leave, but there was no way I was going to miss this trip. I tried everything to get him to approve the time off, but he scheduled me to work that week anyway. He said if I didn't work, I'd be fired. I told him I was going. I liked my coworkers and didn't want to screw anyone over by having shifts that needed covered, so I got them all covered a few days before I left. The general manager wouldn't approve them working for me and still said I had to work. I was working the day before the trip, on Friday, and he knew I would be leaving the next day no matter what. Part of my job was to schedule the crew's shifts. It typically needed to be done by Sunday for the following week, but on this day he said I had to have it done that day. Cue the malicious compliance. One additional thing to note, this was about 15 years after the most popular girl's name was Ashley, and the most popular boy's name was Michael. That means we had 8 Ashleys and 6 Michaels working there. It was normally trouble to keep from having more than 2 of them there at the same time because of labor laws. That Saturday, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., the lunch rush, on the general manager's shift, every single one of them was scheduled at the same time. I can only imagine the chaos when he wanted one of them to do something. When I picked up my last check, another shift manager confirmed that it was as glorious as I had imagined. Man, how many employees does it take to run a fast food joint? I didn't think you'd ever even have that many coworkers. Now from Tales from Retail, my first call. I say, "Hello, bakery, how can I help you?" This guy says, "Hi, I'm from Chicago, but I need a cake delivered to New Jersey. What are your prices?" I say, I'm sorry, you need a cake delivered to New Jersey?" He says, "Yes, by today." I say, I'm sorry, but we only deliver cakes in the Chicago area. It's impossible for us to deliver a cake that far." He says, "What do you mean? Aren't you in New Jersey?" I say, "No, we're in Chicago." He says, "And you don't deliver?" He says, "We do, just not to New Jersey." He says, "Oh, well, do you know any places in New Jersey that deliver the same day?" I was like, "No, sorry, I've never been there. You'll have to look up something on your own." He says, "I want to speak to your manager. You've been nothing but rude, and I'm sure your company will accommodate me." He's like, "I am the current manager, and we aren't a company. We are family owned and operated." He hangs up. It's going to be a long one, boys. Man, why would you call a local business that's like 3 states away to deliver it to you? It'd be like me calling a pizza restaurant in California, being like, "Oh, hey, Domino's, can you deliver a pizza out to me in Utah?" What do you mean you don't deliver to Utah? What's wrong with you? I just wanted my deposit back. So about 10 years ago, my wife, then girlfriend, and I decided to move in together. She was sick of living in a dorm, and my lease was up, and we had a family friend that was looking for someone to move into a little granny flat under their house. I say under because they lived on a steep hill where the flat was below the house, with an entrance on the back side. So we had this incredible view out back, a pool, fire pit, and the rent was in our price range. And the landlord, let's call her Mary, even dropped it $100 if we did some yard work, skimmed the pool, etc. Oh, my parents own a couple rentals, and have my whole life. I've done maintenance for them and even attended a couple court cases as well with them. This'll come into play later. Everything was great for a couple months, then Mary and her wife started fighting. Screaming matches, stomping above us, throwing things. I didn't understand how people could be that mad at each other that often and still be together. I eventually sent them an email saying that we were not comfortable with the fighting and we wanted to make sure they were okay, etc. They replied to that with, "You're lucky you have a place this nice." Mary began to scrutinize the yard and pool work I was doing, to the point she would insist I vacuum and skim the saltwater pool with no chemicals. Saltwater pools need far less chlorine than regular ones, but they still need some. She wanted me to stop mowing and use a weed whacker only because the mower was getting old and tired. Really petty things. The last straw was when a driver was shot in a gang shooting across the street. We decided to cut our losses and get out of there. Found a new apartment and a roommate, one of my wife's college friends, that was open a month later, which was perfect for us. We were on month to month on this place. We emailed Mary that we were moving out in 30 days, etc. At that point, she went insane. Tried to do daily inspections of the granny flat, would call and email daily with chores around the property she'd insist we do, and would pound on her floor, our ceiling, every time she heard so much as a whisper. Daily inspections would require 24 hours notice, which she never gave. Then she tried to bring potential renters over to see the flat. We flat out told her to go away when that happened, with no notice. Finally, 2 weeks before we move out, she had a pest control guy stop by when I was at work and my wife was in class. Our cat was home alone, and we got the notice about the spraying pesticides from her in a text about the same time the guy started. So I rush home after work, stop by upstairs and ask for a copy of the pest control receipt. I have massive allergies to most pesticides, so I need to know what was used. She goes into her office and brings back a copy with every single chemical on the list checked off. Every single one. I immediately take the copy, run down, grab the cat and a handful of clothes, and drive to my parents' house. We stayed there for 4 days, hoping everything would clear out in time for us to finish packing and cleaning. The last couple days before move-out, Mary was out of town, and we were able to get it completely finished a day early. We even patched nail holes, painted, cleaned the carpet. My mom came and helped us get it ready for the next tenants. It was immaculate, and we took photos and video of everything. When Mary did the checkout with us, we said we weren't comfortable being there without filming, which is legal to do. And she did a short walkthrough, stating it was fine, but that her copier was broken, and she'd have to email us the final copy. 2 days later, we got that copy with $1,400 in damages claimed above our deposit, including a number of charges like, my wife had to replace a screw in the cabinet, $1 for screw, $15 labor. I was livid. The place was spotless. My mother, a landlord who does all of her own prep work and rentals, helped us, and we'd been very non-confrontational except for filming the walkthrough. I had kept every email, text, and letter from them, and started to put together a small claims case. I figured she would already be doing the same. Luckily, I knew my tenant rights and that she'd violated them a lot, including email chains where I'd point out 24-hour notice laws, etc., in emails, and she'd reply to them. Finally, I called the exterminator. The conversation went like this. I say, hi, you sprayed in my flat without my permission because my landlord ordered it with no notice to me, with my cat inside, and used every chemical on your receipt? He says, we certainly did not. Here's a copy of the work order. We only put out ant traps on the outside. I say, oh, I'm sorry, thank you for your clarification. Armed with that last little piece, I countersued, asking for a bad faith penalty as well as our deposit. Bad faith was 3 times deposit, so I was asking for a total of 4 times what we'd given Mary on move-in. The big day came in court. I showed up early, had everything in order and ready, and she swaggers in, huffed up, and clearly ready to put me in my place. We sit outside the courtroom for about 20 minutes, until a courtroom worker asked the waiting room if anyone would be willing to go to mediation instead, since they were booked solid. We both say yes, and go into a mediation room with an arbitrator whose job was just to keep us civil and answer any legal questions they could while staying neutral. Mary lays out her case. It takes about 4 minutes. The arbitrator looks very neutral still. Then I present my case, bringing up each violation, each lie, and end it with the work order from the exterminator, both copies. At this point, the arbitrator looks visibly upset, and I can tell they're just trying to stay neutral. Mary then asks them, why is he asking for 4 times the deposit? The arbitrator then explains the bad faith penalty, then looks at me. Would you be okay by dropping the penalty for your deposit back? I say, sure. They looked over at Mary. I can't tell you what to do, but what I can say is, if you decide to go back into that courtroom in front of a judge, it's not likely to go in your favor. I swear they really said this. I know they're not supposed to, but they did. I got my deposit back. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the landlord stories. I didn't really plan for that, but that does make me a little bit more cautious if I ever decide to move to another place. But now we get to check out some answers to the question, hiring managers of Reddit. What was your most, what the heck is going on with this person, moment you had during an interview? Hiring for a senior dev position. I had a telephone interview, and she seemed confident and competent, so I flew her down for an on-site interview. She calls not me, but the front desk reception and says she can't drive in a big city, and needs a car to pick her up, and she refuses to get the rental car we reserved, before the Uber and Lyft. The call is transferred to me, and I tell her to take the train. No, she says, too scary. I tell her then to go to the taxi stand and take that. Nope, afraid of taxis. She wants a corp limo to pick her up, and nothing else will do. She is adamant. I put her on hold, have a chat with my boss, who says, just send her home. She's too much work if she can't even handle this. I tell her, thank you for taking the time to fly down, but not even our own VPs get that treatment, and to go ahead and change your ticket to fly home now. She then starts telling me that she will take a taxi, etc. I said, please don't bother, it would be a waste of everyone's time. Thank you, goodbye. Not once when setting up her travel plans does she say she needed assistance getting from the airport. It was explained to her that she would pick up a rental car at the airport. She was fine with it. No idea what she was thinking, but ain't nobody got time for that nonsense. I guess maybe she thought that coming across as really pushy would make her look more confident and assertive? I was performing a video interview with a candidate. They were clearly in a large room/bedroom, with most of it visible in the background, but it was clean, so I didn't mind. In the back right corner was a closed door. About 7 minutes into the interview, I see the door open slightly, and some dude pokes his head in, sees that his roommate/girlfriend was in an interview, then closed the door. Not a big deal, it happens. I ask my next question and let the candidate respond, but then, about 30 seconds later, I see the door slowly open again. Only this time, the dude comes crawling out the bottom. He continues to crawl across the floor, making his way to the opposite side of the room. I assume he thought that he was out of the camera's field of vision, but he was clearly visible. He gets to the far end of the room and turns to fiddle with something, but in the air facing the camera. Finally, he finishes up with whatever he's doing and makes his way back out the door. I know I should have stopped the candidate and had her deal with the dude, but it was so funny to watch I had to let it play out. I could barely contain my laughter, and after the interview finished, I lost it. She got the job though, and from what I remember, was a great employee. Man, this sounds almost exactly like a skit from Impractical Jokers, where they have to try and not laugh while interviewing somebody, but something crazy is going on behind them. When she listed all of her ex-boyfriends that currently work there, and she said she couldn't wait to see the look on their faces when she showed up to work. This was in the first 3 minutes of the interview, so I wasn't even close to offering the job yet. I cut the interview right there and sent her on her way. Wait, so you're saying you don't want to multiply the amount of drama in your office? I set up an interview for an acquaintance's nephew with a company looking to hire 30 college students for summer work. The nephew's major and the line of work this company performed seemed to mesh perfectly, and I knew the hiring manager personally, so it seemed like a great fit. A couple weeks later, the acquaintance emails asking about the job, so I hit up the hiring manager friend and the conversation went something like this. I say, "Hey, how'd the round of hiring go?" He says, "Great, needed to fill 30 spaces, but only had to do 31 interviews to fill them." I say, "Oh, cool, so was Paul X one of them?" He says, "Oh, him. Yeah, well, he was naked during the interview, so we declined." I say, "What? Are you serious? I find it hard to believe he would show up to an interview nude." He says, "Well, it was a Skype interview, and when he brought up his video feed, he was laying in the bed nude." I say, "Oh, well, maybe he thought you couldn't see him. Maybe he thought it was just an audio meeting." He says, "We told him we could see him, and he said, 'Sorry,' then covered up with a sheet. We asked if he wanted to reschedule, and he said no, he was good. So yeah, we decided to pass. Sorry, Paul." Okay. You know, if it's okay, maybe I'll just do next video, just laying in my bed naked under a sheet. I mean, that should be fine, right? We have a very simple pre-employment test. If you've been in our industry for more than a year, you should get 100%. Sometimes we even give it as an at-home test. We had one guy that took his test home, had it for over a week. He brought it to the formal interview and got 90% of the questions wrong. Even though, according to his resume, he was an all-star and knew everything. He had an excuse for every wrong answer to even the most widely known questions in our industry. It would be the equivalent of saying you'd been lying sod for 20 years and then put the grain side down. He didn't get the job. Well, that's all of our bad interview stories, I guess. You know, I've actually been to a lot of job interviews. Not any for a long time, but I've worked probably a dozen jobs before, and had interviews at 2 or 3 times more than that. But I'd say probably one of the worst interviews that really sticks out to me. So it was like in the summer of maybe like 2014 or so. I didn't even own a car, and it was super hot this day, so I rode my bike to the interview. I'm pretty sure I was wearing like shorts and a polo shirt or something. And it was for some like data entry job because I'm really good at typing. But anyways, I get to this interview, and I was just like, "So what's the dress code like?" And it was something like, "Well, it's business dress, so no shorts, you need to wear button-ups." And I just looked down at myself, I'm like, well, this is already not going well. And then I saw the actual work environment, and it was just rows of cubicles, everyone just being completely silent, all dressed up, and I'm just like, yeah, I think I would go crazy if I tried to work at a job this strict, especially for $10 an hour. So it was one of those nice moments where we both turned down each other. Anyways, that's all for today, so thanks for watching.